I went to Rikers last week, and I went to Rose M. Singer Center, and talked to two individuals in two trans women who are in restrictive housing. And as you described, they were both outside of their cells, handcuffed to a table. I had asked them, I talked to them for a while, I asked them how long they'd been at Rikers. Both said that over a year. One was serving a city sentence, and the other was pretrial, remanded, both for identity theft, Class E felony, nonviolent, obviously. And what struck me was, first off, why on earth are they being handcuffed to a table? I mean, not that there was anywhere to go or any activities or any type of other types of either exercise or any type of engagement. No programming, nothing available, no reading material. But the idea that they would have to be handcuffed to a table for the hours that they're allowed out of their cell seems unconscionable to me. I think that you spoke to that in terms of the rulemaking process. But what struck me was just that, and this was when I asked why they were even there in the first place, the DOC staff said that this was a housing unit where there may be some mental health ideation, but and maybe somebody got into an altercation at some point, and that led to a more restrictive. But what struck me was just that the dial only goes one way, towards more punitive, more restrictive, and it was kind of astounding that they were even there. Why were they there? Creating a system to essentially curtail or disallow any type of arbitrariness on the part of a CO that might have a grudge against somebody, or how are we going to eliminate all of these abuses, structural abuses, and these systems that seem to be created to only gear towards the punitive in the system. The CO, and it was a senior CO, hey, can I get out of here today? I said, well, maybe, I don't know, let me look at the list. Let me, so-and-so got out, but I don't know, maybe you can. It obviously seemed very arbitrary.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Frederick Fusco. I'm the legislative chairman for the Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. I am a New York City correction officer. I sit here before you to talk about the introduction that's being considered of 5170. I speak on the facts that where you see giving the right to decorate a cell, we see a security concern, but we're not against a reform. We see where you think about designing it with wood and ceramics as you would do such your home. We see weapons being made, carved out of wood and ceramics, where not only assault on staff is concerned, but also inmate on inmate assaults. We are about custody, care, and control. We believe that every day there should be a balance between the uniform members, the non-uniform members, the people that are being detained in our care custody. Where you see a need to consider a local law to call an individual by their name and pronounce it correctly, we find it blatantly disrespectful. We talk to the detainees by their name if we know them. Some of them we know for years that come through the revolving door. Some of them we call them by ma'am or sir. Sometimes we have to call them by a booking case number because we don't know who they are and they have to answer up to the design and policy of an agency. 5701 has a lot of suggestions but wasn't thought through properly. Stabbings and slashings are up. Assaults on COs are up 37%. Sexual assaults on correction officers are up 3%. Violent inmate on inmate incidents are up 22%. All from the most recent mayor's management report. Those are the statistics. I'd like to make a valid point, and excuse my throat. My son, that's 7 years old, on Sunday wanted to ride his bike without his tricycle wheels. I looked at my wife and I said, let him do it. She said, he's not ready, he never did it. So in the driveway, I took off those wheels. He got on the bike, and to her surprise, but not mine, he rode it. He rode it to the end of the driveway and back without failure. When she looked at me, she's like, I'm surprised. I said, I'm not. Because I've been instilling balance in the fundamentals of his life. The politicians have to stop putting the politics in front of the safety of New York City. From the uniform side to the civilian side, they need to look at, and I challenge them, create a balance where the advocates, the uniforms, all of us can live the way this beautiful city of New York lives, diverse and versatile, because that's who we are. We need to keep the public safe as well as ourselves. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few questions.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I just want to go back to the bill you're discussing, and the bill. It's my bill, and it's essentially to say that when the new facility is open, there have been conversations about what they should look like, what the future should look like here, to close Rikers Island down, close all these other jails down, and to create an experience where you don't have people who don't have air conditioning, better conditions in this setting. That's the intention, and there have been conversations along the way in this process. The idea is to uphold those conversations so that when the next administration comes in, when the council's gone, perhaps many of these people in the room are involved in this conversation the same way, that that there is something as a sort of a baseline here. So I just want to ask a couple questions. The one criticism here was about the materials, about regulating what materials should be used in it. The criticism, I think, ultimately is that we're saying that it should be non-metallic as a minimum standard. Are you saying it's less safe? Are you saying it's safer if we create jails as they are created today and using the same materials?
Well, you're generalizing that question.
I mean, I'm asking a question.
The way they're making them today. So my answer is, if you use a ceramic toilet, it is known, it's factual, statistical as well, that they will make a weapon out of that toilet. Out of that porcelain toilet, ceramic floor tile, their weapons can be made, and they have been.
I don't think anybody denies that you can make a weapon out of many different materials, but what do you recommend then?
My recommendation is to talk to the Department of Correction, talk to the security, and let them sit there and design a policy. Let them design a policy that's going to be safe to the individuals that are there being detained and the uniform members as well. So I'm not going to give you Fred Fusco's opinion, because my opinion, yeah, it is harsh to see a cell that has nothing but metal and cement. But again, after January 1st, we're talking about the most violent people in New York City.
But I guess my point is the DOC, like if the recommendation here is that DOC is part of the conversation around security, I think you're also saying the staff should be as well, that they have been. And this is again kind of memorializing some of the conversations that have been had around safety and security. I think we are always open to hearing recommendations about how to improve any piece of legislation, how to improve any plan. But I think that if there is a recommendation not to regulate the materials, the first question was, are you saying we're making it less safe? And the second is, then what's the recommendation?
Well, here we had the scanner bill passed, right? The scanner bill picked up anything that was non-metallic. Okay, anything that was secreted, hidden, that was non-metallic. Anything that can go through that machine should be considered not of use in the facility, obviously, right? That's why we passed the bill. We brought the scanners down there. We fought and lobbied to get that bill. And now we got, amnesty is up from people turning things in because they just don't want to go through the machine and get caught. The finding of weapons, handmade weapons, are now that either were brought in at one point or been hidden for a long time, or were designed from pieces of metal that they were able, or plexiglass that were able to be snuck in, are now being found. So anything that you considered that shouldn't be used as material, anything that can go through that machine and be detected by that machine should be considered not to be used. So I can sit here all day long, and I don't have a material list to explain to you what should be used, but I can tell you certainly what shouldn't be used, because that's the experience of being a New York City correction officer.
Okay.
May I address the committee?
Yeah.
I think we are fundamentally starting in the wrong place, because violence is not about the materials that people have access to. Violence is about the conditions of confinement, the atmosphere of violence, and the response to inhumane treatment. When people are in fear and feel hopeless and are provided with no other alternatives but to turn on themselves and to turn outward, you are creating an atmosphere for violence, and it doesn't matter what materials are in these facilities. Anything can be turned into a weapon. People can turn their bodies into a weapon. I think what we need to be having a conversation about, in addition to the physical construction of facilities that are actually humane and that are not built as warehouses and cages, we need to be talking about what are the underlying values and retraining people who refer to people as inherently violent to understand that no one is born inherently violent.
I agree. I understand.
There are other ways to go about lessening violence in our society and in any facility that we might create as a society.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I was just responding to a part of the testimony, to be fair, but I appreciate the comment.
In all honesty, just to piggyback on a little bit what she said, we're so focused on the future and we're not focused on what's going on now. We need to make these jails safe now for everyone. The balance has to be created now. If we want to talk about going back and we want to talk about the way things should be distributed and it should be even and fair across the board, let's stop talking about what may or may not happen 5, 6 years from now. Let's start drafting legislation now that's going to protect all of us now. That's why a balance should be created. Think of a safer New York for everyone, not just for one group, and what may happen 4 or 5 years from now. What is going on now that we are making this city of New York safe? From the detainee side to the uniform side to the public safety side. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, appreciate it. I think Councilmember Holden had a question.
So I'd like to ask you, we see violence increasing in the jails. I asked Dr. Cohen why, and he really didn't have an answer. What would you say is the number one cause, or at least causes, of the increased violence against correction officers and other detainees?
Well, first and foremost, in my opinion, the way they categorize and the way they house, right? Throughout the years, we've seen them change it up quite a bit. The assaults now, as far as weapons being used or deadly instruments being used, are going to go down, and we've seen a significant, decline since the scanner machines have being brought into the facilities as well. The EHS housing that you and the other CC had brought up was basically the person that is shackled to the desk, handcuffed to the desk, is somebody that multiply had slashings or assaults on staff. So that was for the safety of the individuals going to visit that day. But there's all cause of reasons why the assaults are up. It could be everything from the failed 14-point plan to dissent decrees that don't make sense that the policy can never adhere to the fact that we need more ratio of officers per individuals, because 1 on 50 is not going to help. We can't watch everything. 1 on 50, when you talk about one officer in a housing area that has to deal with 50 individuals with different personalities, it doesn't help. We need something to do with status change. We need punitive segregation in a manner that is used in a proper way to take an individual out of a situation and take that individual and place them in an area that is not going to harm himself or others. That's what the tools are needed for. We need more training, a better academy, a longer curriculum. I have the most educated officers since 2012. 7,800 officers came on the job out of 11,000 active. Those officers are all well-educated and well-trained, but training never should stop. It should always get better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for testimony. So I just wanted to, as a rejoinder, the 2 individuals that I saw in that restrictive housing unit that I spoke about that were handcuffed to the table, nobody was claiming that they had assaulted a staff member. The correction officers that I was with, and I was with a deputy warden, nobody was saying that they had.
But you're speculating to the audience that
No, I'm not.
that something else other than. See, listen, the Department of Corrections.
Well, actually, nobody was able. I asked them at the time, why are they here? And nobody was actually able to give me a response. But they didn't say that they were there because they assaulted a corrections officer or that they were involved in any type of.
I'm sorry, but you're not part of the staff, so they clearly may not give you their manifest of why they are there.
I'll get the manifest then. I
fine.
wasn't even going. Listen, I actually,
fine.
to be honest with you,
But when you
Sir,
suggest that
excuse
the
me.
CEO
Hey,
does not know
you're-
what he's doing or what he's doing there, there's an issue with that because you're speculating
Actually,
to
quite the
audience.
contrary. I had a very
Not quite
good.
the contrary.
No, it's quite the contrary. I'm not doing this to attack your COs. I actually had a productive conversation with every CO that I talked to.
Well, now that you say that, but you didn't say that 5 minutes ago when somebody else was up here and you were portraying to the audience when I asked the CO why he was here. Oh, I don't know. What time is he going to go back? Oh, I don't know what he's going to.
Nobody
He made it pretty clear
actually
that they didn't know what they were doing.
I'm just telling you what happened.
Okay, and
I'm just saying publicly what
and
happened.
I'm reiterating what you had said, sir.
I get it. Okay. I'm not out here to make a judgment. Okay. I'm out here to tell you what happened. And so all I'm saying is that that particular instance, there was not a on its face compelling reason. I'll go back. I'll report. I'll communicate back to you what the rationale was. I'll get that information, and I'll report that back. But my point is this: actually, is that the COs that I spoke to. All acknowledged that most of the people that were there shouldn't really be there, and that
That's clearly hearsay. I mean, you're talking to an audience that.
I mean, I
you're
was
playing to your audience. Once
I'm
again,
reporting.
don't-
Look, again,
please
I'm
do
not making it.
Please do not put the politics in front of the public safety. See, if somebody is
actually
in
not. So just-
ESH and they are handcuffed to a desk, they have multiple assaults and they have done slashings. That is not something to take lightly. That was done for your protection.
Yeah, it didn't
So
ha-
you can keep speculating and saying what they want to hear, but you're playing to your politics.
I'll make
So
sure
please
to get the
refrain from
information,
that.
and I'll contact
Please
you
do,
directly
sir.
about that.
Please do.
My question is this for COBA is okay. So the population continues to decline of people in detention. It is anticipated that it will decline significantly as a part of bail reform, speedy trial reform, discovery reform. The new facilities themselves will be a fraction of the overall capacity that exists in the system now. In addition to that, it will require less staff.
If honestly that's what you believe, but I believe your colleague still believe the same.
I'm going to ask the question, okay?
Okay, no problem.
That because of things like, I mean, in Brooklyn,
just get
they're
to the
sir,
point.
just hold
Just let
on,
him ask
hold
it, let him
on.
go ahead.
Listen,
Get to the
you're in the city council, okay? Right now, I'm going to ask a question. If you want to be here to answer, you can. I'm asking you a question.
Then,
So
sir,
just
perhaps you should read a government of the people, by the people,
yeah,
for the
that's
people.
right. That's right.
Don't
That's
forget
right.
that, please.
Right, I don't. My boss is the public. Those that elected me, okay? That's my boss.
100%.
That's my boss. Those people that
100%.
elected me.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
My question for you is, this is just, this is actually not a hostile question. My question for you is, as that number decreases, I mean, things like in Brooklyn, for example, in a housing unit, there are 5 COs that are needed, right, in a housing unit because of sightline issues. And that's going to be reduced per detainee. The number of COs per detainee should come down because of issues around the configuration of the housing units. My question is, how is COBA working with the city to essentially, for those that are looking, that are either going to retire or are hitting their 20 years and looking to do something else with their lives, if they became a correctional officer at the age of 23 and they're 43, hit their 20 years, and want to leave that service, what type of preparation are we doing with the city to see if what other jobs they can have at the age of 43 when they have many years left to work, might not want to work as a correction officer, but might have, if they're in it for the right reasons in the first place, to work with. I mean, we should be doing all of these. Every correction officer that I spoke to and every DOC employee that I spoke to over the last few weeks has said we should really be putting all of this money into communities to keep kids out of here in the first place, to keep kids from ever interacting with this system in the first place. I think that was across the board. That's what I heard. So do correction officers, are you hearing from your rank and file that people want to, that people, as they're leaving corrections, hitting 20 years, that they want to go into the communities to start working with the kids out in the communities?
Well, first and foremost, even prior to leaving and retiring, we have many officers that have Goodwill Foundation not-for-profits that are in their communities. They do everything from Thanksgiving dinners, turkeys. COBA does everything from Thanksgiving dinners, turkeys. They're always fundraising for groups. We just did a big thing with going back to school with the officers, and we helped a couple of foundations for non-for-profit that helped to raise money for book bags for kids that can't afford it. We've done personally haircut. So we're always in our communities. See, every single community in every one of these boroughs, our members live. All your districts, we have many members, right?
That was the one thing that actually struck me was that a lot of the COs were from communities close to my district.
Right. So a lot of them, at the end of the day, are always giving back throughout their career to the communities.
Okay.
Not only for when they retire, as what they decide to do when they retire. I can't speculate that. Some of them have law degrees. Some go into law. Some are psychologists that continue psychology. Some
guy I
go
spoke
in
to was at an MBA.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, I can't really answer that because there's so many different areas they all
No, right. What I'm saying is that maybe it might make sense as there's going to be a significant amount of attrition over the next few years, that we're looking as to how, if they want to continue to be involved in changing the world to be a better place, that there's some opportunities to work with the city in a kind of not adversarial footing.
So that's an excellent thing that you just mentioned. So maybe I should come see you for a home rule message, because we need to change the way you can have a salary, especially if you do another municipality job after you leave our job. There's a cap on it, so it keeps it very hard for people to stay in New York too as well. So maybe if that cap could get lifted, and then they can come back and they can work as with another municipality within the city civil service itself, then perhaps maybe there would be interest to stay here as well, other than moving out of state, where it's a little bit less and you can live on your pension.
I do agree with you that it's important that we don't paint all correction officers with a single brush and say, I mean, there are a lot of people that are doing it either for the right
I don't
reasons
think we
or
should paint
for
any of
because
them.
that's where their life led them, but they want to do the right thing. I think that's important to acknowledge.
But it's a civil service position
Yeah.
where you're saying, you're kind of making it sound like they're obligated to, that they have to continue.
No,
their
I'm saying that
20-year
those that
work.
might want to.
Yeah, and some of them, like I said, continue to do both at the same time.
Okay, well, keep talking.
There's nothing else to speak.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for testimony.
Thank you very much.